we go. Good morning, friends, and welcome to Musically Minded. It's Sunday, it's Recovery Day, and here we are. I'm Addambombb, of course. With me, DJD42, Diana, your hostess with the mostess. You want to say hello, Diana? We'll see how long the delay is.
Hello, Diana.
Okay, well, I have to remember to pause a little bit afterwards because I know we have a little delay. The video looks like it's delaying pretty bad already too, but you know, we try our best. How's the audio out there? Tansmakina, good to see you. Enlightened, good to see you. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for joining us over here in chat on twitch.tv/Addambombb, ADDAMBOMBB, if you're watching us over on Facebook, or if in the future you are catching this on YouTube, because we do put the shows up on YouTube as well, and you want to catch us live next time, hey, now you know how to do it. Let's see, Dusty Chin, hey, glad you could join us. Thank you so much. Of course, we do want you guys to throw your questions out here in the chat. Anything that's musically minded, you know, of course, we're always taking that peek behind the curtain on DJing, talking about music and brains and DJing and all that kind of stuff. Diana's going to be leaving us early today. She's going to be taking off at 2:30 because she is being interviewed on the Space Couch show today. Brian Gropner of the Gothsicles, Tiger Squawk Records, putting her on the couch in space and asking her all kinds of questions. And of course, we're recovering from the Retro Rumpus last night with Syrinx, David Bowie's birthday, and an absolutely educational set from Syrinx. Two great sets. And next week it's a Wicked party. And of course we'll do this next Sunday as well. In 2 weeks I'm taking the weekend off, so no show on Saturday night, no Musically Minded on Sunday in 2 weeks, just taking the one weekend off for some medical crap, and then we'll be back the following week, of course. If you can join us this Wednesday for New Music O'Clock over on MTV TV, we've got the Festival Octubre, boy, I can't say it, it's too early in the morning. Festival Octubre Negro recap with Ricardo Vicordia. So come on over and join us for that. It's going to be a great show. Let's see. Let's get into it. Diana, we what were we talking about last week? We were gonna we had a promise that we were gonna
talking about deaf DJs.
Yes. Frantic, good to see you, and I'm glad you enjoyed the set last night. We had a good time. And actually, Syrinx had something that we were gonna talk about as well. You wanna give us a little peek into that, Diana?
For Syrinx's question, it was more of a going back and woulda, coulda, shouldas in the set.
Yeah. Afterthoughts. Yeah.
Afterthoughts, thank you.
So we'll do that. We'll do that too. And Frantic, I think you said that you were going to have questions too, so go ahead and get those up in the chat so we have them up in the queue. Anybody else, if you've got questions, get them up in the queue because we're gonna get into the conversation now. So it was an article in Mixmag entitled "How Deaf DJs Are Revolutionizing the Club Experience." And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to slap my own hand a little bit and correct myself from something that I say a lot, which is that DJing is all in your ears. And I want to change that. I think that DJing is all in your heart. And so, oh boy, deaf DJing. I am a half-deaf DJ myself. I can't hear in my right ear. I had a head injury when I was a kid. Haven't been able to hear out of that ear for most of my life. So I've had to adapt a bit to my hearing loss, which of course I have compounded by many years of amplified music and playing the drums before I even started DJing. So I've got a lot of ringing. I have a lot of tinnitus. Like this ear is nothing but mad tinnitus, and it's louder than everything, which is why I like amplified music. Um, and the only frequencies that I can detect in that side, funny enough, are like the sub bass frequencies below 80 or so. If it's loud enough, those are the only ones that I can really detect, and that's more because it vibrates. So headphones are nice because you can feel it kind of doop, doop, doop. Anyway. um, I'm going to reference a few things here in this conversation. One of those things I'm going to reference is a movie called It's All Gone Pete Tong. Petong. It's All Gone Pete Tong, which is not a movie about Pete Tong. Um, it is a movie about a DJ who loses his hearing due to a medical condition, um, goes through a lot of issues with that, and then um, because of digital DJing and visual DJing, we're getting there, um, is able to overcome the handicap of being deaf and handicap of being deaf um, and mix. He learns to mix through his feet, feeling the vibrations and using the waveforms visually. And so um, I'm going to say this. I will still stand by what I say about, having it all in your ears. If you're a hearing, if you're a hearing person, then, um, it really is in your ears. Now, if you're not a hearing person, this stuff is a miracle. The visual feedback that we have, and there are DJs out there, and this article is fairly recent. I don't know when that article came out. Maybe Diana can find that for us. Um, but in there, it mentions Def Rave, and they've been around for a long time, since the OOs, and maybe even a little earlier. But I learned of them a long time ago. And Diana and I were talking before the show. I said it was really influential on me. Like I have done deaf weddings and deaf events, and it's definitely knowing about Def Rave very much changed the way that I think about how I mix my music and the music that I was playing. Uh, I used to do a lot of events for Cosm for Alex Gray, especially when they first moved from Manhattan to Wappingers Falls, where they are now. And that's where we would break out the bass music. It's very Burning Man kind of scene. Um, you know, and uh, and so that was a place where I really got to experiment with the kind of music that for me was like, with my hearing loss, like I know how I feel the music, but like that for me was like sort of my way of experimenting with the ideas that I got from reading about Def Rave many years ago. Um, I think they're in Australia, right? Um, that's where they started, and um, and so a quick little story on the side note of that, like bass music. So uh, when this article was posted, I'd seen it in a group post on Facebook, and somebody had commented on there asking like, how do you even do that, right? Like have a deaf event. How do you do that? And so I did respond to that. You know, I said one of my favorite tricks is that you get big balloons and you blow up the big balloons, and you can feel the music resonating in the balloon, and you can feel it. You can feel the frequencies literally. It's like it feels like it's moving around in the balloon, and you can feel the thump, right? And I said you put the speakers right on the dance floor, right, so that it's vibrating through the dance floor. And you want to have really good clean sub bass, you know, which of course you always want to have really good clean sub bass, but like, you know, but then people can feel it in their feet. You know, the more that you can feel it in your body, the better. And of course, lighting, right? I think personally, I think it's better to have a human there playing the lights because they can work with the DJ and the atmosphere of the crowd. I love having live lighting technicians, especially, you know, artists. I want to say I love having live lighting artists at any big event. You know, if you're doing clubs with a light person, yes, live light people, do it. Um, but yeah, having visuals that are synced to the music and performed live, so that it's as full of a sensory experience as it possibly can be. Um, and at weddings, you know, instead of like tapping glasses, like, you know, if you want the couple to kiss or if somebody's gonna make a speech, you know, that's probably really annoying over the microphone. But instead, what you do is you take your napkin and you spin the napkin like this, and it looks amazing when you have like a whole room full of people doing this at the wedding because they want the bride and groom to kiss, and that's, you know, like applause as well. You know, is spinning the napkins and stuff. Um, so I know I'm talking pretty fast through this one because we do have other things that we want to get to. Um,
We do have another question in chat.
Yeah. Well, let me just let me try to cap this one off. I was telling
Okay.
Diana a story earlier. Yeah, I got to remember to pause. I probably just talked right over you. It's like, you know, I've got her on Skype here, and it's kind of real time for us, but there's a delay from Skype to to OBS and all that. So I'm sorry if I'm stepping on you. I'm really gonna try to keep that in mind, which is why I'm saying it out loud. Um, and the ADD. So I was telling Diana this story earlier, about a time that I played at Element NYC, which used to be the bank, but at the time it was Element. And in this room, it was a bank, and it's this big, tall tube of a room. And the DJ booth is elevated. It's quite high, and there's a stage below it, you know, and under that stage is all subwoofers, and they have subwoofers on both sides in there, and it's like a cat. Like this room is just like, you know, bass cannons like that you would put in the trunk of your car. It's like a bass cannon in a room, and it's like this huge space for the waves, like, you know, sub bass waves are long. You know, that's the whole thing with the frequency, is how many times do they happen, right? If it's like 80 hertz, it's 80 times a second, right? And so it's much slower than like, you know, vocal or guitar range or something, where you're like 25 to 6,000, where all your high end stuff is happening. Um, so it takes a lot longer for the waves to propagate in any room. And um, and so I went into this place, right? And I looked at this thing, and I, you know, I did what I do. I walk around and I clap a little bit, and I try to listen to the acoustics, because, you know, the space that you're playing in affects how your stuff sounds. It's like it's not all like pristine in the studio sounding. It's, you know, bouncy and echoey. And so if you have a lot of bouncy stuff, then the more like uh the more full and loud, like loudness, fullness, wall of sound, sort of stuff that you play, it's like it gets, kind of lost. So like, in big echoey rooms, you kind of play more minimal stuff. Like minimal stuff sounds fantastic in warehouse rooms. You know what I mean? Dush, 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 because you just boom, 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 boom. Um, but something jangly like the Talking Heads sounds better in a little concrete room like CBGB's, right? And that's actually something that we can talk about, because David Byrne talked about that in one of his TED talks, which is very interesting, about how music is designed to be performed in the space that it's intended to be performed. But that's something we can talk about another time. Um, Getting back to the story about Element, I walked into this place and I realized what I was standing in, and I went to the sound guy and I was like, "Hey, can we tune this bass?" And he thought that I was crazy, but I went into the booth and they had the CD decks were like on these elevated things, which is kind of weird. But they had the Allen and Heath mixing board there, and it has two bass EQs, one of which is the sub bass, and the other is your sort of mid bass where your kicks are. And I looked at that board and I looked at this room and I was like, oh my gosh, right? So I asked Pavel, the sound man there, to tune the bass amps with me before we opened the room, and he really did. He thought I was crazy, and it was beautiful to play in that room. Just the sub bass was so gorgeous, and so I was rolling I was mixing it, like mixing the subs before I had mixed the other things, so it would come in much longer and slower, where it would have this change in the subs, and then the change would happen all around. There's some very cool tricks that you can do with that too, cutting out everything but the mids but leaving the subs in, make some really cool tricks. And it just blew up. And at one point, one of the other local DJs was like gripping onto the railing and jumping up and down so high that I thought he was going to flip over, screaming, "Yes, yes, yes." And at the end of the show, Pavel came over and he was like, "I have never heard anyone mix bass like you." And it really was all about like tuning that room and using the tools that were there in front of me, and just sort of that moment of realization where I was like, this is a room that I can really work the bass in. And that is exactly the kind of room that I would want to do a death rave in, for exactly those reasons, like really fucking tuned, and really fine tuning the sub bass, because that's where you feel it in your body. We're just, said it before, we're like these big bags of water, and you feel it in your body. Have I rambled down that enough now, Diana, to justify the topic there? All right. So, what was the next thing that we had in the queue there? Was it Syrinx?
Well, there is a question in chat. If you'd like to go there.
Yes. Please hit me with the question in chat, Diana.
Which is, do you have synaesthesia or know anyone who does? And that's something we've talked about.
Yes, we definitely have. So, do I have synaesthesia? Definitely not classifiable synaesthesia. I have what I have is an awesome imagination. Okay, so I'm very mentally, I'm very visual and very audio visual, like in my mind, like so when I am listening to music, when I'm working on music, when creating music, I how do I say this, like I don't have like full on like hallucinatory sort of experiences, but like I visualize, I get a lot of imagery in my mind. Um, and I do think it connects me emotionally to music very much. And uh, um, Synesthesia is an interesting thing, though, because I do think that there's kind of a spectrum. Do I know anybody that has it? One of my former apprentices, DJs not, um, was definitely a full blown, is definitely a full blown. I shouldn't speak in the past tense. In the past tense, he was my apprentice, and and he's up in Maine and plays at Plague quite a bit there. So if you're ever up in Portland, you can go check out a goth night up there called Plague. He was one of those people that or is one of those people that experiences sound as color, color as sound, words, numbers, all of those things, you know, like they have flavors and feelings and attachments and attachments and attachments. um he is a very emotionally and musically connected person. um the way that he performs, DJ, I see Dusty Chin has another question, but we'll get back. The way that he performs, um, uh, is very, very much affected by all of these layers that he is experiencing. So you know, however emotionally attached we are to music, synesthesia is attached in a lot of different ways, and like, you know, certain sounds can be truly unbearable. um you know, if we're talking about synesthesia, though, who we really ought to be talking about is Kandinsky, the artist. He was in the Blau Rider idiom. um and uh yeah, he was Blau Rider group, right? Well, I can say that some of his artwork is exhibited in the same place in Germany where they all used to live. But anyway, point of it is that his paintings, if you look at them, they're these crazy fields and swirls and shapes, colors and contrasts and brilliances, you know, like the hues and everything. And uh, personally, I love modern art and non-objective art and kind of weird art. And so Kandinsky kind of particularly blows my mind because Kandinsky was fully synesthetic, full synesthete, and uh, his paintings are musical compositions. I wish that I could hear what Kandinsky heard looking at his paintings. His paintings are so beautiful that they make me kind of weepy even just thinking about it. And just this layer of, you know, that there's this sort of hidden music frozen in these paintings, and that to him, they were alive, and the, you know, and making melodies in his mind. And, you know, so synesthesia, I think that if you're a performer or an artist with synesthesia, that, you know, it's kind of like, what does Mr. Monk say? He says it's a blessing and a curse. Um, you know, we all have to kind of adapt to our particular crazies, do we not? And you know, I will say this, I have an incredibly strong emotional attachment to music. um I myself am not fully synesthetic, um but uh very dreamy. You know, uh I definitely experience music on a visual level. That's why I like music videos so much too, which is part of why we do MTV TV and you know, and all of that. Maybe it's because of that, being trained by, you know, Generation X Dusty Chin. Um, I think that answers that question anyway. And oh man, Diana, you're just awesome. Look at that, getting all the links out there for you. Plague and Wikipedia for Kandinsky. Kandinsky wrote a great little folio. You can get it in like the museums, I guess. And it's what is it called? Concerning the Spiritual in Art. So try to get your hands on it and check that out. It is Kandinsky explaining his brain in a lot of ways. It's really interesting. I would not know so much about Kandinsky and synaesthesia if I had not read that book several times. I will say I read it as a youth, and then I got it again as a teenager, and then I got it again in my 20s or 30s or something. I've read it many times over. I've given it to many people as well as a gift. It's really a great one. All right, so having run down that rabbit hole, we're getting pretty fucking close to when Diana's going to have to leave us and go over and get ready for Space Couch. She's got to get to the spaceport.
I do. I do.
What was the next question up there, Diana? Before you get going on us.
From Dusty Chin, backing up a bit. How do you measure sub bass and other bass tuning? Is it purely by instrument measure or measurement ear body sense?
Mm. Yes. Okay, so what I'm looking for, um, it's a few of these kind of strangely indescribable qualities, but I hope you'll understand what I mean. What I'm looking for is fatness without distortion. I want to have lots of headroom in my amplifiers so that I have very clean sounding bass, clean sounding subs. Um, yes, body is very much a part of that. I mean, we've talked about it a few times now. It's like you feel it in your guts, you know, and you feel it in your body. Um, what I'm really doing so when I go in and I talk to Pavel, and I say I want to tune the subs, what I'm really doing is I'm setting levels of the subs where I'm getting this maximum fatness without clipping, without distortion. Um, and oh, that's the alarm that says that Diana's going to have to leave us momentarily. Um, should we go ahead and say goodbye to Diana now? Let's say goodbye, Diana. We will miss you, but we're going to raid over to Space Couch in another half an hour, which I should probably set an alarm. But why don't you say goodbye for a minute and tell everybody what's going on while I set another alarm?
Thank you all for joining us. Yes, I will be on Space Couch in half an hour. Twitch.tv/Space Couch Show. And then Wednesday, we have the festival and review from Festival Internacional Octubre Negro 2022 on MTV TV. So that'll be fun.
See, Diana can say it much better than I can. I'm pretty bad at that. But yes. Ricardo is awesome. He's one of the festival organizers, and his band is Uban, right?
Yes. Yes.
Cool stuff.
Right, I will see you later.
All right,
All
we'll catch
right,
you in a
I will
little
see you
while.
later.
I hope the TSA isn't so bad at the spaceport there.
Me too.
Like,
All right.
take off your
Me
legs
too. All right.
before you go through the metal detector.
I really should. I really
All right,
should.
we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's see here. There is no Diana, only Zool. All right. Haha. There it is. All right, Zool. Um, Continuing on with the sub bass I apologize for the interruption. So what I'm doing when I'm tuning the subs is I'm listening first to those frequencies, like kind of turn all the other amps off. I just want to hear the subwoofers, right? I'm trying to get that nice clean bang out of them. So what does that mean? It means that they're using the maximum amount of traveling without getting stopped. Like, I don't want them clipping because that's distortion and it sounds bad. And it's clipping, distortion, and this is why compression sucks, by the way. We can talk about compression another time, like MP3 compression. And clipping is ear fatigue. Like, it causes ear fatigue, especially over time. And so having as much headroom as you can in your frequencies is what you want optimally. So what I go in, I go in and I first do the sub amps, and make sure that I'm getting, you know, the fullness and the richness out of the subs that I want, and then bringing all the other amps, which are the higher frequencies, bringing all of that up to the bass. So it's like, you know, I want the bass to be where I want the bass to be, and then I want to bring all the other frequencies in balance with that. I hope that makes sense. Because you're looking for loudness and you're looking for pressure, but you're trying, you know, of course, you want to avoid clipping, which is why you want to avoid clipping on your mixer, and, you know, gain staging is super important, and all of that stuff. Whole nother conversation. um, so it's going to be a little harder for me to watch questions in the chat if Diana's not here, but I'm going to try. Frantic, did you get your question up there? I don't think I saw that. So if you've got a question up there, Frantic, please repeat it. Let me know. Oh, I see you are posting now. Here's a rabbit hole we should check out. Should DJs help other DJs out? I'm doing that right now. I hope. What I mean by that is, you're a brand new DJ just starting out, or you've been in the field for a few years now. You know the DJ who spins at the event you're trying to get a gig at. Should that DJ use his connections, contacts to help you out, or do you feel it's every man for themselves? Okay, well, here's the thing is that like, I mean, of course you're going to use your connections and your contacts and your relationships. I think it's more about developing relationships, though. That's the thing, is like, you know, it's uh should the DJ use his connections and contacts to help you out? I think that's up to them. You know, should they? Like, you know, if you're helping them, they'll want to help you. I mean, there is definitely sort of a quid pro quo in the industry to some degree. I like to think that myself. Okay, so all right. One of the things that has been a strong motivator in my career since I went independent, when I started doing independent club events and stuff. Um, One of the things that I really have tried to do throughout the course of my history is offer opportunities. Like, if I have an opportunity, I want to try to extend that opportunity to other artists. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if I have the opportunity to do a show, I want to try to bring in other people that I think are going to fit the vibe and the groove and the point of the thing, that they're going to get the underlying meaning of what we're trying to do here, or whatever that is, that are going to have the tone, that are going to understand the audience, whatever it is. Have draw. Like talent, sometimes you book talents because they have draw, and you know that they're going to bring people in, and sometimes you book talents because you know that the audience is going to love them. um and even if they've never heard of the DJ or the artist or the band, whatever you want to call it. You know you're being a curator in that respect. If you're running events, you are being a curator. Like, hopefully you get to do stuff that you like. You know what I mean? Should other DJs use their contacts um, to help you out? I think friends um, just sort of do that for each other. I mean, I definitely do that for my friends. I'll be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I know that person. I'll give them a holler and recommend. I do it with bands. I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Um, I think you guys would be a great fit to collaborate or to do shows with, or to tour with this other band. I mean, one of the feathers in my cap was that I introduced Ego Likeness to the Cruise Shadows at Haven. Um, we booked the Cruise Shadows on the tour, and I invited Ego Likeness to come up from Baltimore. They had never played in New England. They were a new act at the time. They had their 4-song EP out, and I'd been playing a couple of tracks from that around in the clubs. I liked it. And so I played it. I tried to give it some exposure, and when I saw the opportunity to put them in front of the same audience as the Cruise Shadows, which was a band that they loved and we loved, um, I did, and they hit it off like you wouldn't believe. By the end of the show, they did a song together at the end of the show. You might remember that. And by the end of that night, they were talking. They were talking about doing a single, which they did, a duet single, with Rogue and Donna, and collaboration single, and then they went on tour. They did the European tour, and then they did the next American tour with them. They got signed to Dancing Ferret, to the label that the Cruise Shadows were on at the time as well. And all of that happened because of that moment there, where I was like, hey, these two bands together would make a great show, and I would love to see that. I just wanted to see them play together. You know what I mean? And it turned into something that was, I mean, I think now kind of historically significant, right? That, of course, Steve Archer's still making great art. I've known him as an artist first. They used to run a little indie gallery, and Steve's stuff is amazing. Um, and Donna uh, is a writer and poet as well. These are very creative people, and of course, they're still making music as Ego Likeness, and Steve Archer's other project, Stoneburner. They've been very active during the pandemic, doing a lot of the festival shows, and um, they even MTV TV. So yeah, I think what happens a lot of times are stories like that where it's like, you know, as a promoter, as a curator, you see talent and you want to expose it. It's like you hear songs that you like and you want to play them. um it's kind of the same thing. DJs helping other DJs, I definitely think DJs should help other DJs. I mean, like I said, that's why I'm here. Not just to help other DJs, but anybody who's musically minded. Ding. um um you know how do I say this? Like, you you can only do what you can do, I suppose. I mean, I've had a number of apprentices over the years, but it's kind of one at a time. I've had students, like, it's kind of like giving guitar lessons. Want to learn your way around the boards, I'll do DJ lessons with you. A lot of that is this kind of talking about theory and that kind of stuff, but a lot of it's technical too. um I definitely, how do I say this? I've definitely run into DJs that I don't want to help because they think they know everything already anyway. Like, the old saying, how can I serve you tea if your cup is already full? I think you choose your battles. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. I don't think that you should expect anybody to do anything for you. Not really. I mean, if you're out there doing stuff for other people are going to want to do stuff for you. Just keep paying it forward, paying it forward. DJing is a culture. And, we're going to probably, well, Diana didn't want to talk about this week because she wants to be there for the whole show. So I think next week we're going to actually address the question, what does being a DJ even mean, at the start of the show? So you might want to catch on to that, because it can mean a whole lot of different things. But DJing is a culture in and of itself, and I do think, how do I say this? Some of the most respected turntablists in the world are the ones who have tutorials all over YouTube because they're not hoarding the information. They learned from somebody else and they want to pass it on. That's why I'm here. It's like we learn and we want to pass it on. It's not about making it, I mean, gatekeeping, right? It's not about making it harder for DJs to do this. It's all about making DJing more accessible for people and to help them be good DJs, to help them achieve their goals with DJing, whatever those goals are, and and do the best that they can with it. um I don't really see DJing as being a competition. I know I've said before, the only thing that I feel in competition with is my own goals, if that makes sense. Like, I want to be the best DJ that I can be. And the more I learn, the more I know I don't know, and the more I need to learn. And so, of course, having my arm paralyzed for a year was a bit of a setback. You know what I mean? I can't do quite all the things that I used to be able to do with DJing, but there it is. You do what you can. And yeah, I do think that, as a DJ, you should offer what guidance you can. I want to also caution that, like, it's not really up to you to fix somebody else's shit unless they ask for some help, if that makes sense. Like, um you know it, you know um like, opinions are like assholes, I suppose. Not everybody wants to see yours. All right, let's see, where are we at here? We've got about 15 minutes left on the show, and I did have the note about Syrinx is I don't think we have Syrinx with us today. We had him with us last night. We were partying hard for the retro rumpus. But the thought about afterthoughts, and so unless anybody else has a question that they want to throw up in the chat real quick before I start talking about that, do it. And I've got an alarm set for 2:55 so that I can say goodbye, and then we're going to raid over to Space Couch for Diana. All right, so afterthoughts. So Syrinx had said, what do you do when you think of something that you should have played after the set? All right. So it's afterthoughts. When you think of that, oh, I should have played that. Oh, crap. Why didn't I think of that? That would have been great. We all experience that. There's a French phrase. What is it? L'esprit de l'escalier, I think it is. It means the wit of the staircase. And that's that thing that you should have said, but now it's too late to say it. And oh, damn it, I should have said that. Damn it, I should have played that song. Afterthoughts. So we all have them. And they're a learning experience every time, aren't they? Oh, I should have played that. Well, one of the things that really helps on a gig is preparation. I mean, I'm going to say this, preparation in this day and age is pretty simplified. I mean, again, we used to prepare with crates, and you would have crates and you'd be like, well, this is the stuff I need for this gig, and this is the stuff that I need for that gig. CD books, I had several CD books, and if I was doing a wedding, I would grab these CD books, and if I was doing clubs, I would grab these CD books. Now we have awesome sorting systems with crates and Serato. I'm gesturing to the computer up here that you can't see, and the USB foldering and all that kind of stuff as well on the the internal units there. Because we have this ability, how do I say it? Because we have this ability, I think we should take advantage of it. It's the same thing that we used to do. So, I like to be somewhat prepared for a gig. I'm not like etching a set in stone. I'm throwing a bunch of ideas into a crate and giving them some rough organization and saying, oh, these kind of go with these things. And hopefully that will trigger my mind to think of those things ahead of time, or at least because I'm not scrambling. Like, if I've done a good job in my preparation, I probably won't be scrambling to find the next track. I'll have a few options ahead of me for anything that I'm playing, that I know what tone I'm going for. And when I see my audience responding, I can respond to that in time with my selections. And hopefully that will give you the mental space where you're kind of like, you're prepared for your next transition, and you're kind of like, yeah, what else would these people like that I don't have in my crate? And that gives you that couple extra minutes to like flip through your stuff and go, oh, this one. Do it all the time. You're still going to have afterthoughts and think, oh, I should have played that. It's always going to happen. And the reason is because you're in a different emotional state than you were at that time. What you played at the time must have been the right thing to play if they kept dancing, or, if it felt right, or whatever it is. And if you didn't play something and nobody came up and requested it, then it probably wasn't missed. Nobody else would even conceive of, oh, you know what he really should have played. No, they were all having a good time with what you were playing anyway. Like and you can play it next time if you want. I like to do a post-mortem after my shows. If I'm recording the shows, I like to listen back to them and listen to the transitions, listen to my selections. Even if I'm not recording them, I like to go back in my mind and think about the different highlights of the night. And of course, some of that is self-critique, like, oh, that thing I kind of messed up, like, last night, my postmortem for myself last night was like, there were a couple of mixes that I wasn't super happy with, but I knew I was taking a risk on that. And I like the way the songs went together, even if I didn't quite, it wasn't as tight as I would like it to be. It wasn't that bad, you know what I mean? And that's the thing too, is set a high bar for yourself so that, when the mix isn't your best mix, it's still fucking better than probably most of what your audience has experienced. I don't know, like, but that goes back to DJs helping other DJs, right? Is, if there's new DJs in your circle, it's better to teach them. It's better to give them the opportunities. And I'm going to close off the conversation there on postmortem, and I'm going to run back to Tans Machina says buyer's remorse for DJs. Yeah. I mean, well, here's the other thing that before I go back to the previous digression, which is the DJs helping other DJs thing. You're the person who noticed that it didn't go off the way you wanted it to. Nobody else knew how you wanted it to go off. Unless you tell them. I kind of pop into chat. I say this all the time. Don't apologize on the microphone. Don't apologize on the microphone. Don't apologize on the microphone. But even then, I still do it. Like, I kind of do it backstage with my friends. If I've got friends that are with me or other DJs, I go, damn it, that one didn't go off right. The audience can't hear that from the dance floor. I type it into the chat sometimes and say, that one didn't quite go off the way I wanted it to, but I love this song, It's so true for many things in life, says Dusty Chin. You're right. I mean, that's it. That's life. DJing is life, baby. DJ life. To DJ life, I need to hydrate. So DJs helping other DJs. As I said before, one of the things that I've always tried to do is that if I have an opportunity, I try to extend it to another artist, to somebody else who I think is going to do a good job. And with the nightclub, when I'm doing nightclub events, when I have done nightclub events, if I do nightclub events in the future, who knows? Let's take Haven as an example. Haven's a great example because Frantic, you've been there. So that's my 5-minute warning. So we're gonna end the show real soon. I would offer the first hour 9 to 10 slot to the DJs who didn't have as much experience and who didn't have any kind of a following, so to speak, or whatever it was, and not for nothing. I mean, some of the definitely experienced DJs would take those first hour slots anyway, being more local or whatever, but we'd have our guest DJs coming in from all over the place. And so, yeah, I would try to give, Ceremony did the same thing in Boston, give the first hour slot to an up and comer. somebody who's trying to build their experience, who's trying to, you know, like, you can know how to DJ, but then you get in front of an audience and it's like it all kind of goes out the window. You know what I mean? Like everything you thought you knew was wrong, right? Suddenly you've got an audience there and it's much more terrifying. And um and they're responding to what you're doing. So, you're learning how to read an audience. Like, okay, that didn't work. Okay, this worked. That's why you do the postmortem, right? Is like you have to be honest with yourself. So like, oh, I played a bummer. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't like that one. So, well, I know now that next time I do this, they're probably not going to like that one either. The other things that you learn is like how to introduce people to new music, right? Which we have talked about before, like combining it with stuff that they know, giving them familiar threads so that they can feel how it, works into the evolution or whatever it is, so that you're giving it to them in a way that is not frightening. That's the building trust. And when you're learning, it takes time to learn how to do that. So, I definitely think DJs should help other DJs, with, things like opening slots and helping them, especially, it's like if people are putting their time into learning the craft, how do I say this? You don't learn more without getting on the road. The more that you gig, the more that you learn. Simple fact, the more that you gig, the more that you learn. And so, yeah, help each other get gigs. Like when you've got new DJs in your circle, some of them, they end up being they're going to be running the fucking clubs in a few years. In 10 years or something, they'll be the ones who are booking your ass. So, if they're not a fucking intolerable human being, and some of them will be, some people are backstabbers and they're just in it for them. But if you're building DJ culture, it's definitely something, you pay it forward and it gets paid back. I guess it's good karma. It's good karma. Help other DJs. All right, I'm going to wrap this up because we're going to go over to Space Couch in just a few moments here. Thank you so much for joining me today for Musically Minded. Thank you so much for your support, of course, on Patreon, ADDAMBOMBB. Everywhere else on the internet, same thing. Addambombb, spell it right. You'll find me. Got all the music out there. It's on SoundCloud. It's on Bandcamp for free and all of that stuff as well. So check it out. You might find something you like. You might find something you want to spin. DJs. Thank you so much, Dusty Chin, Tans Machina, Frantic. Great questions. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. I know Enlightened. I'm missing more people up there. I'm sorry. Thank you to DJD42 as always, Diana. She'll be back with us, of course, next week, and we'll talk about what does being a DJ even mean. On that, let me go ahead and hit the theme song here, and we'll go to curtain. Wednesday, new music o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern on MTV TV. Next week on Saturday night, it's a wicked party, and then we'll have Musically Minded on Sunday. So come and join us for that, won't you, please? All right, cheers, my dears. Oh, I lost my coffee. Cheers, my dears. Thank you for joining us today. I love you lots, and we'll see you next week.